running a business is a tough and lonely journey. Welcome to the Executives on the Front Lines podcast, where business owners and C-suite executives like you will get real answers to your everyday business problems. I'm your host, Jeff Pelaccio, and together we will learn from senior leaders who have occupied every top box of a company's org chart for every size organization and who like to roll up their sleeves while checking their egos at the door. Welcome to this episode of Executives on the Front Lines. I'm your host, Jeff Pelaccio. Today we're going to chat about wrapping up 2024 and planning for an uncertain 2025. Very excited to have three great, fantastic guests and subject matter experts. Elizabeth Souder, the classically trained corporate attorney, now turned queen of corporate culture, Elizabeth Souder. Mike Reed, former tech company CEO, and he has experience in over 20 acquisitions ranging from 20 million to 500 million. And then Baron Lukas, 27-year Marine officer and fighter pilot with experience as CEO, COO, and chief of staff. So Elizabeth, Mike, and Baron, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. So here we're recording on November 25th, 2024. So, you know, as in a typical election year, a presidential election year, you know, a lot of uncertainty in business for that year. People are afraid to make decisions. Now that the November 5th elections are over, you know, what we do know from a national perspective is we have a Republican House and Senate, obviously a Republican president, but I would love for each of you to give your thoughts on what this means to business owners and CEOs as they're wrapping up the 2024 year and what this means for their 2025 goals and plans.
I love this question. I just actually spoke to a group of entrepreneurs and small businesses last week on how to avoid common legal landmines by using an organizational health approach. And what we really see is that you build such a resilient organization when you attend to the daily culture, the behaviors, I call them the core values that make an organization successful and run in its most authentic way. So I've really been challenging my clients to use this time of reflection going into December to look back on this past year, to reconnect to that essential question: why do we exist? What differentiates us in the marketplace? And what behaviors have made us successful? And also, where do we see that those behaviors were absent when challenging times came around? And really sort of doubling down on those questions as you develop a strategy. I'm always surprised at how few organizations actually have a strategy that they're executing on. But when you start with those fundamentals, that strategy, you've built the habits and the routines that make that strategy just naturally occur in its implementation. So I go back to basics and build from there.
Yeah, I love that. You know, as Peter Drucker said, you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast, but both are important. Yes. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great lead in. Thanks, Elizabeth and Jeff. I think some of the principles that myself and my team always applied is understanding how to scale a business. There's different strategies, whether you're an incubator or a startup, you've grown to maybe a small cap, $10 million, you're going through the mid-size, maybe $100 million and beyond to a larger, more scalable business. I think it's really important to balance the growth that you intend to find and the benefits versus the risk. And what should the CEO and the leadership team evolve, and how actually ExecHQ, with all our experiences, could help you balancing the investments, the capital investments, the R&D investments, potentially some geographical expansion could be right for 2025. And of course, as Elizabeth was mentioning, the investments in people and talent development. What do you want the culture of your company to be? How do you attract the talent that you're going to need to hit your growth objectives? What about new customers, new markets? And again, if you need to look at some international expansion or even reshoring in the Americas, ExecHQ can really help you on your journey. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Baron, your thoughts from that safe house you're at an undisclosed location?
Exactly. Well, there's lots of changes about to happen. The question is, what is it going to happen? I don't think any one of us really knows, other than we can assume the stock market is going to go up. Certainly Bitcoin has gone up. We're going to assume that money that was on the sidelines for the last 3 years is going to be released. There'll be lots of acquisitions, lots of PE activity. What we don't know is what's going to happen internationally, and I'm still kind of holding my breath to see what happens over the next few months. But no matter what happens, I think that the end of the year is a good time to reflect on what happened in the past and kind of think about what you've missed, perhaps, in getting your job done as a owner, CEO, board member, whatever you are. So 3 things that I would think about is, one is take stock of 24. Take stock of the business and then come up with a list of, this was good stuff that we did and this was bad stuff that we did. It's almost like Santa Claus checking his list twice. And then do the things, make a lessons learned program out of it. And then whatever was good, consider doing it again. And whatever was bad, don't do it again. And that sounds really simple, but most people never do it. So please do that. Number 2 is the pace of change has increased. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, but things are just moving faster. And I think the change in the incoming administration, what that will mean for the American economy and the global economy, I don't think we'll have never seen a pace that's going to be as fast as what's going to happen. So the old, let's do a end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter plan for the company, and then try to see if you can still find it on January 3rd or 4th, isn't going to work. Planning is going to have to be continuous, and I would highly recommend that you update, analyze how you're doing, and update your plan on a monthly basis. But if you're not doing it, you're going to lose opportunities and you're going to face risks that you're not prepared for. Lastly, if I were a CEO or business owner, and I have been in the past, I would look at 3 things. First, I would take a look at myself. And all of us that have been in the corner office are in a glass house, and we live kind of alone as leaders. And it's time to reflect on if you're the kind of leader you really want to be, and what changes you have to make in yourself to be ready for next year, so you can be the best leader you can be. Second is really take a look at, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing as a leader? Have you developed the right kind of vision for the company? And have you communicated that vision to the lowest level? Does everybody really know where you're trying to go? Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, and the people that are working for us don't really know where we want to go, and then it causes confusion. And lastly, and this is more in Elizabeth's wheelhouse, but if you have not developed and nurtured a culture that is aligned with your vision and mission, you're going to fail. It's not if, it's when you're going to fail. So take a look at that. If your culture is not correct, if your values are not correct, and do not support the vision and mission, change it now. Change it, how you're going to approach the next year, and develop a company that has a vision and mission that is aligned so you can move forward. And the rest, just hang out your hats, because things are going to change.
Yeah, I really love your take on the self-awareness piece, because I really, leadership starts with yourself. So, I think just excellent points. And obviously, as we've talked about, culture is important. Mike, you obviously have the most CEO experience out of any of us on this podcast episode. What thoughts would you like to add to what Baron just said?
Well, thanks, Jeff. I was just giving that some thought. I certainly led our businesses with a tremendous understanding of what our customers and ultimately what the market needed from our customers to serve the market. I think the more you understand what drives your customers and how they win and how you can partner with them to win all over the world, they really appreciate that. You can gain market share. And in return, you can tell that story to all your employees. I think it's absolutely vital that every single employee that works for you knows where you're going, where the customers are going, and what the market is expecting. through downtimes and certainly through growth times, which we're all optimistic about. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Elizabeth, any final thoughts from you?
I'll just go off of what something Mike just said that sparked a thought in my mind is that idea that every employee needs to understand how they are contributing to the vision and the objectives of a company every single day. And I've sat through so many strategy sessions where the C-suite presents to the employees, this is our great strategy for the upcoming year, and they fail to answer the question, which is all that anyone there is thinking about is, what does this mean for me? How is it that what I do tiers up to success of the company? So that's a very important intentional conversation that not only needs to happen between managers, but it also needs to be alive in job descriptions and goals for each individual in the company. So I echo Mike's focus on that issue.
Yeah, it's so important that that message and the vision and the goals are in every aspect of the company. It's so important. Baron, final thoughts?
Final thought. If you're in your office all day, stop. Get out of your office. Go walk around. Talk to your people. It's called leadership by walking around, and it is a foolproof way to get your head out of what you think is going on and really realize what is going on. And it's also your opportunity to shift perceptions and influence the culture on a daily basis. So what I recommend is every hour, get up for 5-10 minutes and walk around and talk to somebody and get their viewpoint on what's going on. You'd be amazed what you might find out.
And it also increases your step count, which I love. So that's very important.
Exactly.
Well, I want to thank you, all three of you, for being on the Executives on the Frontlines podcast. I wish you and your loved ones a magnificent holiday season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Executives on the Front Lines. If you are interested in learning more about today's guests, you can schedule a 15-minute call with them by scanning the QR code or using the link in the episode description. Please join me every 2 weeks to learn from another great leader sharing insight that can help you and your business.